In this episode of Kids Podcast, I am honored to share wisdom with you about leading kids in your church and in your home. Dealing with kids is hard work, and I'm praying that we add some tools to your tool belt today. So let's dive into today's topic. Leading with vision. That's what we're talking about in this episode of Kids Podcast. My name is Ron Gale, your podcast host for today, and we're going to be locking down this topic of vision, specifically leading with vision. Pretty much every time I'm on a forum, a feed, a sit-down, mentorship, a conference, a class, a book, a podcast, you name it, the topic of vision comes up in our realm. Whether you're a kids pastor, a youth pastor, a coach, a parent, vision is always on the table. So let's talk about it today in our episode of Kids Podcast, where we're all about leading the leaders of kids into an overflowing life with Jesus, so that we can lead those kids into an overflowing life with Jesus. And before we go too far, I have to give mad props to my friend, Lee Rogers. He is a missionary for Speed the Light, and he taught me this concept many moons ago. And I don't think he realizes that he taught it to me, but we were talking about vision at a round table, and he said, lead with vision. And the concept has stuck with me for years. The words have stuck with me for years. And in the last 10 years, I began to kind of really digest and really keen in on what that means and how it looks and how it's applied to what I'm doing. So let's break this down. Let's walk through it, because you clicked the episode. We're here. We're talking about it. I recommended it to you for whatever reason. We're leading with vision. That's the deal. So let's begin with a fishing analogy. You know, my favorite thing to do when I'm not doing kids ministry. A fishing analogy. Most of the time when the average fisherman goes fishing, they kind of just grab their rod and grab their thing of worms or whatever, and then they just kind of go to the local water and they catch what they catch, and who knows, and that's that. Sometimes they catch a bunch, sometimes they catch nothing, sometimes they just catch what they catch, but the success rate is super subjective, because on one hand, you just went there to fish. On another hand, were you really fishing? Yeah, you had a rod in your hand and you fished and whatnot. The more serious anglers, the ones that catch big fish, we don't do that. No. We don't just grab any rod and walk to any body of water and just fish. We might do that on a very specific occasion. Most of the time, the serious angler, they have in mind what they want to do and how they want to do it. They might want to go trolling for walleye. They might want to go wading for salmon. They might want to go to Erie to catch steelhead. They might want to go specifically to a reservoir to get a muskie. And you don't just grab any rod to catch those types of fish. You need to grab your muskie rod with your muskie setup to catch muskie. You need to grab your salmon gear with your salmon setup with your salmon rod to catch salmon. You need the right things for the right situation to catch the right fish. And in fact, one of the funny things that happens is when you are muskie fishing, you have this big old lure on, and then you're just casting, and all of a sudden, smash! Big old fish on. And you're like, oh! And then you realize, oh, that's not a muskie. And you reel this 5-pound largemouth bass in, and you're like, ugh, this trash fish. It's daunting. It's not exciting. It's a bummer because we were not targeting that fish. Although we were fishing, that's not what we wanted to catch. Although it's a big fish, it's not what we wanted to catch. We had this plan in mind, this vision in mind to catch a muskie. And this is not a muskie. This is a largemouth trash bass fish. The same thing happens when pretty much you fish any style. You target a specific species and you get something else. And it happens from time to time. And we were like, oh, that's not what I was here for. And so the point is when you lead with vision, it helps you to target what you're about to do. When you lead with vision, it helps you to target what you are about to do. One of the common things you might hear in the leadership circles, especially the church world, is Proverbs 29:18. They'll cite the passage, and it talks about how without a vision, people perish. And although I'm not knocking anyone for using it, because there are concepts in there that might work, the reality is the theological breakdown of that passage is not about organizational leadership. Yes, you can apply organizational leadership to the concept, or the concept to organizational leadership. But the intent of that passage was never about organizational leadership. And if you've noticed on this particular podcast, I don't dig too much into theology, into any of my feeds, largely because this is a kids ministry, kids realm podcast. I'm not interested in debating theological truths. I know why I believe in what I believe, and that's important for you to grasp. But I'm not here to talk deep theology. But what I will say is when you hear that, people without a vision perish, although there is some conceptual truth there, just know that particular passage is not about organizational leadership. But let's dig in. Let's dive in a little bit more. Because when we talk about leading with vision, there are two lanes to come to understand. There are two lanes. And the lanes are just two, because we could go into more, but we're going to focus on two because, hey, it's a podcast. And the reality is you can buy a bunch of books, go to several classes, probably hit up 100 different podcasts, maybe even sign up for some master class. There is a lot of information on the topic of vision. And to be very clear, today we're talking about organizational leadership, the idea of leading with vision. And so far, we've really just clarified that, hey, when you're not leading with this vision, you don't know what you're targeting for. And secondly, leading with vision is very organizational. And so the passage from Proverbs 29 is not 100% applicable. So the two lanes that you might be needing to lead with vision. Lane one is carrying someone else's vision. Lane one is about carrying someone else's vision. This might be your bosses, your supervisor, your moms, your dads, your friends, someone else's project. It doesn't really matter. It's been delegated to you, handed to you, entrusted with you. You own it as the project manager, as the coach, as the kids pastor, youth pastor. You have been given a vision to work with. So you lead with someone else's vision. The second lane is leading with your own vision, leading with your vision. You're the stakeholder. You're the top dog. You're the one who came up with this project, this plan, this thing. So it is your thing to see through. You own it. So we lead our vision. But the big deal with all of these, whether it's someone else's vision or it's your vision, is that all vision is visual. Period. All vision is visual. Period. And you might be thinking about vision statements, Yes, the same thing. If it's not visual, it's not a vision. We cannot confuse a vision statement with a charter statement, with a mission statement, with a value statement, with any other type of statement. There's lots of statements, and you can make statements. But the thing that I've really keened on in the last couple of years is this idea that a vision statement is visual. Bill Hybels tells us in his book, or one of his books, that vision is a mental picture of the future. So whatever imagery you want to begin thinking through right now, whether it's a graph, a drawing, a sketch, a painting, an infographic, you name it. If you cannot visually imagine it or see it or draw it or write it down, it is not a vision. I cannot overemphasize that vision statements and visions are visual with the eye, the human eye. I can see what you're talking about. Big deal. And I think this is a big deal for me because so often I hear people talking about their vision for a thing when I cannot actually imagine what they're talking about because the words they're using give no imagery. The words they're using give no imagination. The words they are using paint no pictures. Let's take an example. Tell me about let's take a very simple one. Tell me about your vision for the soccer team. All right? We want to win games. Okay. What does that look like, though? All right? Now, a simple way of putting it is when we play a soccer game, at the end of the 90 minutes, if you can imagine a clock with me, it hits 90 minutes, and then there's a scoreboard on the left. It says us, and then on the right, it says the other team. The other team has 0, and we have 3. Okay, now you have an imagery in your head of a scoreboard that says 3-0 after 90 minutes. We win. That is a visual vision statement. Let's go another step, another example. Let's say, what is your vision for the kids ministry? Well, we want to lead kids to Jesus. Again, that's not bad, but that's more like a charter or maybe even a mission statement because you're not giving me an imagery of what that means or looks like. So instead, what I would challenge is paint me a picture. What does that look like? Is it we're in a room and we're talking to kids about Jesus and they're listening to this message that we're delivering from the Bible, and we're offering them the opportunity to come to the altar. And when they come to the altar, they are talking to the one and only God. They are on their knees. They may even be crying. They're praying to God, asking him specific questions. A question such as, what is my calling? What do you want to do in my life? And Lord, use me. And so from that, you now have an imagery. You have a vision to lead with vision. Let's take another example. One of the more common ones is I want to do this event where we have Nerfs and the kids are shooting each other. And how would you plan this? Why are you asking me is the big question. Because I have 0 stake in it. I am not planning it for you. It was your idea. And if you were to put it together, what does it look like? That's the challenge I give to you. What do you see? What do you see as the outcome? For me, if I were to plan it, I would have the entire other building completely reserved. I would have 3,000 Nerf bullets set aside in buckets all over the entire building. I'd have a red flagged hallway and a blue flagged hallway, and I have a whole bunch of Nerf guns lined up on the wall as if it was a laser tag. I would probably do some sort of orientation that says, don't shoot people in the face, have fun, and shoot a lot of Nerfs, and and I would probably just let them go at it for 30 minutes, just shoot each other free-for-all style. And when they start to get crazy, I might give them an objective to go maybe capture the flag style. And after that, I might go juggernaut style. Then I might go whatever. Anything you might see in a video game, I would try it. Trick shots time, and then I would just do it all. That's what I would do. But that's my vision. What is your vision? How do you imagine it? Great idea. You should definitely do it. But what I do, it really means very little. Now, do you want my ideas? Do you want to know how I did mine? All right, well, I just told you. That's how I did mine. But that's irrelevant until it lines up with your vision. You have to see it. You have to imagine it. You have to lead it. You have to make it happen. And that's what makes the vision statement visual. Because now you're aiming for something. Now you know what you're targeting. Now you know where you're going. And then as you plan things, you can keep things in alignment. Because you don't want to catch no 5-pound largemouth bass when you're trying to get a double nickel muskie. You know what I'm saying? So leading with vision is a big deal. Let's go one more, even bigger, because this is very practical. Let's say you're on an interview and you're interviewing to become an athletic director for a big organization. Let's just say it is a school. Any school. Let's go with a college. Yes, you're going to be athletic director for a college. You are now walking around with, let's say the guy interviewing is the vice president. Yes. And maybe even the president is there. They're talking to you. And they show you the field house. They show you the field. They show you where the players play. They show you this and they show you that. And they ask you, what do you think? What do you see? Now, this is your time to shine, because you're going to lead the rest of this interview with vision. You could say, like, well, I see us winning games. Again, that's just arbitrary, and it's just a magic thing out there that no one can imagine. So we want to turn that into a visual concept. So, again, you're walking around with the vice president and the president of this college in hopes to get this job to be the athletic director. And they say, what do you see? And you'd be like, wow, you know what? I see a new stadium over here. Not just any kind of stadium, it's a dome stadium with turf. I could see soccer players in this turf, football players in the turf, lacrosse. This would bring in so many more students, so many more athletes. I can see these players wearing your school colors. I can see this, and right away you're already imagining a dome. You're imagining athletes, and you're imagining, and that's a big deal, because if you're imagining it, they're imagining it. Now the guy who's interviewing it is imagining, and how much more impressed is the president of this school with your answer? Because you didn't just give some answer that had very little imagination to it, but instead you painted a picture with your words. So when we say lead with vision, it literally means use your words to paint a picture of the future. Paint a picture of the future. Maybe you don't paint a picture. You draw a diagram. You draw a graph. You do an infographic. You do some website design. You do some Photoshop. You do some ChatGPT graphic requests. It doesn't matter. If you can see it and it can be interpreted by words, boom, nailed it. That's how we roll. So now let's go on to the next bit. With a quick review, we talked about 2 lanes, someone else's vision, your vision, and then we talked about how a vision is visual. Now let's be applicable, or let's do an application, whatever. 3 things that you can do right now to begin developing a vision. 3 things that you can do to develop a vision. And this can apply to your next fishing trip. This can apply to your current job. This can apply to a mission statement that you're actually working on. This can apply to, honestly, strategies for an actual soccer game, which I do all the time. This can apply to your job interviews. This can apply to literally anything and everything, because it's about making it visual, using your words to cast a vision statement. Leading with vision. Number one is draw it out from your mind. You had this idea. It was your thought. Doesn't matter how it got in there. You got it. So now you need to draw it out from your mind, whether it's a graph, an actual sketch. Put it on paper. Don't put words on paper, put an image on paper. The second thing you can do is wait on God. Wait on God. It's from God, put it on paper. The first one is we said it was from you, we put it on paper. The second one is it's from God, put it on paper. Sometimes we're praying, sometimes we're meditating, sometimes we are in our personal devoted time with God, and He gives us something that we had never would have thought of before. Sometimes it's an image in our head, sometimes it's words, sometimes it's a God thing. But we know that it's not us, it's Him. So we write it down, we put it down, we draw it down. So first we said it's from me, I put it down on paper. The second one is it's from God, I put it down on paper. So the third one is it's from others. It might be a book, it might be a podcast, it might be from a discussion, it might be from a round table, it might be from a conference. You're listening to the guy, you see him do a thing, you're like, wow, I really like that. I don't want to take his thing, I just want to change it up to do my thing. I want to contextualize it, I want to tweak it, I want it to roll off my tongue. Put it on paper. So all three, very simple. It's from your mind to paper, from God to paper, from others to paper. No matter what it is, if it's visual, it's a vision, and you can make it happen. Because at the end of the day, as long as you can see it, you can lead others to it. But if you cannot see it and others cannot see it, well, how are you going to lead anybody to it? Your idea, it's a good idea. You should definitely do that idea. But make it visual. Make it visual first, and then cast that vision, and cast it a lot, cast it often. And if you're not casting it 2-3 times a week, you're not casting it enough, because vision is like a vacuum. It kind of just gets sucked out and it goes nowhere, and no one knows where or why. And I was talking about this idea with a friend recently, like, you got to talk about it often, especially if it's important to you. If you think about the things that we do for our life and our health, like going to the doctors, and the doctor says you need to come back on this specific date, and how many of you actually remember that date or what you need to do before that date? No, you write it down, you get a little appointment card, you put it in your phone, and this is something that's important for you, because if you don't go, your health is in jeopardy. But somehow we forget. And if we forget as something as important to our as our personal health, how much more are we going to forget like something like vision, which is applicable to our organizational leadership and so forth. So once you get it in your mind, once you get it from God, once you get it from others, you're going to draw it down, write it down, and then you're going to cast it often, all the time, over and over and over. I have this theory that if I don't say it enough that people aren't able to repeat it, well, it's just never going to happen. And then I go even further, that I know that I'm doing good at casting the vision when people begin finishing my statements for me. I use this imagery in soccer. It's called a hockey stick. It's a whole lesson. It's a whole soccer IQ thing. And when it happens in a session or practice or whatever, I'm like, bro, that's hockey sticks. My guy, that's hockey sticks. You can't do this because it is hockey sticks. And after a while, they kind of get tired of me saying hockey sticks. And then they'll watch me play, and they're waiting for their chance to say hockey sticks. And it never comes because I know better. But they're always looking for it. And then after a while, they've heard me say it. They're looking for opportunities to say it. One of their friends makes a poor soccer decision. And then the players begin to say amongst themselves, hey, that's hockey sticks. Hockey sticks. Hockey sticks. The hockey stick is the visual imagery that they now have to correct a bad problem. All because we've led with vision from the very beginning. So there it is, leading with vision. If it's not visual, well, it's not a vision. And I'm not knocking anyone who does it differently. I'm just speaking the next level of leadership, I guess. Yep. So I hope this helps. Lead with vision. You got this. Do that thing. Draw it down. Boom. If you got questions, you know where to find me. Until next time, everybody say, Thank you for listening. Smash those like buttons, turn the bells blue, or whatever the kids are doing these days. At the end of the day, our goal is to raise little people to one day become big people. You can find older archived podcasts on our YouTube channel and support what we do at rongaleministries.com. Enjoy!